All right, so today we're doing a deep dive on ChatGPT.
Okay.
You've sent over some really interesting stuff about it, and honestly, it's mind-blowing to see how this thing went from, like, a tech experiment to practically a household name.
Yeah, it really is a fascinating journey, and it's about so much more than just this one chatbot, right? It's really about how the entire field of artificial intelligence has evolved to get us to this point.
Okay, so before we get into ChatGPT specifically,
Sure.
can you kind of set the scene for me? What was the AI landscape even like before ChatGPT was around?
Yeah, so if we rewind a few decades, right?
Yeah.
AI was mostly about rule-based systems, and these systems they could handle very specific tasks, but they weren't what you would call flexible. It's kind of like those old school calculators that could only do basic arithmetic. Helpful in a limited way, but not exactly mind-blowing.
Right, AI with training wheels.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so what was the turning point then? How do we go from calculators to something as advanced as, like, ChatGPT?
So the real game changer was the emergence of machine learning, and even more importantly, deep learning.
Okay.
And instead of being explicitly programmed for every single task, these deep learning models learn from massive amounts of data. So imagine, you're feeding a computer like a library's worth of information, and it starts to kind of like connect the dots, figure out patterns, almost like it's learning to like read and understand on its own. That's kind of deep learning in a nutshell.
So it's not just about, like, crunching numbers anymore. It's about, like, understanding information like humans do.
Precisely.
Wow.
And that leads us to a specific branch of AI called natural language processing, or NLP, and this is where ChatGPT really kind of comes into play.
Okay.
NLP focuses on enabling computers to actually understand and generate human language, which, as you can imagine, is incredibly complex.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to teach a computer to play chess, but to teach it to understand the nuances of human conversation, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah, that's wild. Okay, so we've got deep learning, we've got NLP. Now, how does OpenAI fit into all of this?
So OpenAI is the organization behind ChatGPT, and their mission is super important here. They're all about AI for good. So they wanted to create cutting-edge AI, but also ensure that it's used ethically and responsibly.
Which is a whole other conversation we could have.
Exactly.
But for now, let's decode the name ChatGPT.
Sure.
I'll be honest, the GPT part has always sounded a bit like a secret code to me.
It does have a certain ring to it, right?
Yeah.
So GPT stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Think of it like a super-powered writing engine, one that's been trained on just an unbelievable amount of text, data books, articles, code, you name it. And this pre-training is key because it allows the model to really learn the nuances of human language and generate incredibly sophisticated and human-like text.
Okay, I think I'm starting to get it.
Yeah.
So generative because it creates text
Yes.
pre-trained.
Yeah.
Because it learns from all that data beforehand.
Exactly. And the transformer part, that refers to a specific kind of deep learning architecture that's particularly good at understanding the relationships between words in a sentence, even across like long stretches of text. So it's like giving the AI an intuitive sense of grammar and context, but like on a much larger scale than we could even imagine.
So OpenAI has this powerful GPT technology.
Right.
But it wasn't ChatGPT right from the get-go, was it?
Right.
I remember reading about different versions of GPT.
You're right. It's like a tech family tree, right?
Yeah.
GPT-1 was the first version released back in 2018. It was impressive for its time, but it was really just the first step. Imagine like a toddler learning to speak. They can string a few words together, but they're not exactly writing novels yet.
Right. So GPT-1 was AI kind of finding its voice.
Exactly.
Still a bit rough around the edges. But then my notes say that GPT-2 was a pretty big deal.
It was.
What changed there?
Scale. GPT-2, released in 2019, was all about going bigger and bolder.
Okay.
It boasted a massive 1.5 billion parameters.
Wow.
Now, you can think of parameters like the connections in the model's neural network.
Okay.
They're kind of like the synapses in our brains, the pathways that allow information to flow.
Right.
More parameters mean more connections, which translates to a much more nuanced and sophisticated understanding of language.
So more data, bigger model, boom, smarter AI. Sounds almost too simple.
Deceptively simple.
Yeah.
Because then came GPT-3 in 2020, and this was the real game changer.
Okay.
We're talking a colossal leap to 175 billion parameters.
Whoa.
To put that into perspective, it's like comparing a small town to a bustling metropolis in terms of the sheer scale of information processing.
175 billion. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah.
No wonder people were suddenly talking about AI writing poetry and code. Like, it was no big deal.
Right, it was a massive breakthrough. GPT-3 could generate incredibly coherent and contextually relevant text on a huge range of topics because it had been trained on this massive data set of books, websites, code essentially, a vast chunk of human knowledge.
Okay, so GPT-3, this massive leap forward.
Yeah.
But it still wasn't ChatGPT yet, right?
Right.
So what were those missing pieces that turned this, like, powerful language model into the conversational AI we know today?
Yeah. It's like, you have this incredibly powerful engine, but you need like a skilled driver to really unlock its full potential, right? And
Yeah.
that's where ChatGPT comes in.
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing on generating like impressive, but, kind of isolated pieces of text.
Right.
ChatGPT was all about taking the power of GPT-3 and fine-tuning it for natural, engaging conversation.
So it's like they took GPT-3 to finishing school,
Yeah.
taught it all the rules of, like, polite conversation.
Exactly. It needed to understand the flow of like a back and forth exchange, remember what was said earlier, and respond in a way that, felt natural and engaging, almost human-like.
Right.
And this is where things get really ingenious.
Okay.
They use a technique called reinforcement learning from human feedback, or RLHF, to kind of make this happen.
RLHF.
Yeah.
Okay, that sounds way more complicated than finishing school.
It has like
Yeah.
a technical ring to it.
Yeah.
But essentially, imagine you're teaching someone to play a new game, right?
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't just like hand them the rule book and expect them to become a pro overnight.
Right.
You'd play with them, give them feedback on their moves, and kind of help them improve over time. And that's essentially what RLHF does.
Okay.
But instead of a game, it's about mastering human conversation.
So they had, like, humans training the AI to be a better conversationalist? That seems like a massive undertaking.
It was a massive effort, but it was absolutely crucial.
Wow.
So human AI trainers would have like literally conversations with the model, right? Providing feedback on its responses, showing it what works and what doesn't in a natural conversation. And over time, ChatGPT begins to learn from these interactions, adapting its responses based on the feedback that it's received.
So it's like giving the AI, like, a crash course in all the subtle cues and, like, unspoken rules of human conversation, the things that we just, like, we don't even think about. We just do it.
Totally, yeah. All those things we take for granted.
Right, exactly.
Like, recognizing humor or, empathy, even sarcasm to some extent.
Wow.
And the more it interacted with these human trainers, the more sophisticated its conversational abilities became.
And the result of all that training is the ChatGPT we know today, the one that everyone's talking about, using for everything from, like, writing emails to brainstorming ideas for their next, big project.
Precisely.
Yeah.
But the story doesn't end there. OpenAI hasn't just been, like, sitting back, watching ChatGPT take the world by storm.
Right.
They've been constantly working on making it even smarter, more versatile, and, more aligned with human values.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. What kind of, like, upgrades are we talking about? What's, like, next for ChatGPT?
So one of the biggest areas of focus has been on accuracy, right? Because early versions of ChatGPT, sometimes they struggled with like getting their facts straight.
Right.
They might have very confidently presented information that was just plain wrong,
Yeah.
which obviously raised some concerns.
Yeah, I remember those early headlines about AI hallucinating facts, which, yeah, not exactly a ringing endorsement for trustworthiness.
Exactly.
Right.
So OpenAI has been refining the training data, improving the model's ability to kind of distinguish between reliable and unreliable sources, and even incorporating like mechanisms for fact-checking. They're essentially teaching ChatGPT to be more critical of the information that it encounters, just like a good researcher would.
So it's not just about being, like, creative and engaging anymore. It's about being accurate and trustworthy, too.
Right.
Especially given how many people are going to be relying on this for information.
Exactly. And they've also been working on expanding ChatGPT's creative capabilities even further.
Okay.
So think beyond just writing, like, essays and emails. We're talking about generating different creative text formats like poetry, code, scripts, even musical pieces.
Well, on ChatGPT.
Yeah.
Like writing a screenplay?
Yeah.
That's both incredibly cool and a little bit unnerving.
It is pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And they've also been exploring ways to make ChatGPT more interactive and multimodal.
Multimodal. Okay, you've lost me. What does that even mean?
So imagine having a conversation with ChatGPT where it not only understands and responds to your words, but can also, like, show you images, videos, even audio related to what you're discussing.
Okay, now that's next level stuff. It's
Yeah.
like going from like a text-based adventure game to a fully immersive like VR experience.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's a great way to put it.
But how do you even begin to like teach an AI
Yeah.
to understand and interact with like different forms of media like that?
It involves training the model on data sets that combine different modalities, right?
Okay.
Allowing it to make connections between, say, like a written description of a sunset and an actual image of a sunset.
So like in theory, I could have a conversation with ChatGPT about like my favorite movie,
Yeah.
and it could not only like discuss the plot and characters with me, but also like show me clips from the film or even like find music that matches the mood.
Exactly. The possibilities are pretty much endless, which is incredibly exciting.
Yeah.
But as you pointed out earlier, it also raises some important questions about the future of, well, pretty much everything.
No kidding. This isn't just about like AI writing a better email. It's about AI potentially changing how we work, how we learn, how we communicate, even how we like create art.
It's a profound shift, no doubt.
Yeah.
And that brings us to perhaps the most crucial aspect of ChatGPT's journey, its impact on society as a whole.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here from like the really early days of AI all the way to like ChatGPT and how it's kind of taking the world by storm.
We have.
But the big question on my mind, and I'm sure on our listeners' minds too, is what does this all actually mean? Like, how is ChatGPT and AI more broadly, how is it actually changing things out there in the real world?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the truth is we're only just beginning to scratch the surface of what's possible.
Right.
But even in these early stages, I mean, we're already seeing ChatGPT make waves in a number of like really key areas.
Give me some concrete examples. Like, where is ChatGPT already having a real impact?
Well, one of the most significant areas is education, right? I mean, ChatGPT has the potential to completely revolutionize how we learn and teach and, make personalized education more accessible than ever before.
Yeah, I could definitely see how that could be amazing.
Right.
Imagine having like access to a tool that can like explain complex concepts, but in a way that actually makes sense to you at your own pace.
Yeah.
No more feeling lost in a crowded classroom or like struggling to keep up with a textbook.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just individualized learning, right? ChatGPT can provide instant feedback on writing assignments, generate custom practice problems tailored to a student's specific level, and even offer, different explanations of a concept until something clicks.
Hmm.
And, that kind of frees up human educators to focus on the things that, they really excel at, mentorship, fostering creativity, and, addressing the unique needs of each student.
So it's not about replacing teachers.
Right.
It's about like giving them superpowers to be even better at what they do best.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, what about beyond education? Where else are we seeing ChatGPT kind of making its mark?
Well, it's already transforming industries like customer service, right? Content creation, even health. I mean, think about those like AI-powered chatbots you see on websites everywhere nowadays.
Oh, yeah.
Many of them are powered by, technology that's very similar to ChatGPT.
Right. It's like instead of waiting on hold for hours listening to that terrible hold music, you've got an AI that can like answer your questions instantly 24/7.
Exactly.
And let's be honest, it's probably more patient with frustrated customers than most humans would be.
Precisely. And it's not just about answering like simple questions, right? ChatGPT can be trained on a company's entire knowledge base, meaning it can handle like this huge range of inquiries from, troubleshooting technical issues to even like providing personalized product recommendations.
It's like having a team of super efficient customer service reps,
Yeah.
but without the overhead,
Yeah.
and they never take a break.
Right.
Okay, what about content creation?
Yeah.
How's ChatGPT shaking things up there?
Well, it's already being used to generate everything from social media posts and marketing copy
Okay.
to like news articles and even, like you said, scripts.
Hold on, so is my job as podcast host safe?
I think so.
Should I be worried about an AI coming for my gig?
Honestly, I wouldn't lose any sleep over it just yet.
Ah.
While ChatGPT can generate incredibly, human-like text,
Right.
it still lacks that, that creativity, empathy, and understanding of nuance that makes, human-generated content truly compelling.
That's reassuring, at least for now.
Yeah.
But seriously, like, this all sounds both amazing and a little bit, like, daunting, Like,
Yeah.
how do we even begin to prepare for a future that's so, like, potentially intertwined with AI? Where do we even start?
It's a question we all need to be asking ourselves, right? I mean, it's not just about developing advanced AI.
Yeah.
It's about ensuring that those advancements actually benefit, all of humanity.
So it's not just a tech issue, it's a societal issue too.
Absolutely. We need to be having open and honest conversations about the ethical implications of AI, developing guidelines for its responsible use, and, really ensuring that everyone has a voice in shaping this future.
Hmm.
It's about finding that right balance between innovation and responsibility, and that's going to require a collaborative effort from, policymakers, technologists, ethicists, and really the public alike.
It's like we're writing the rule book for like an entirely new era, one where AI isn't just like a sci-fi concept, but like a very real part of our everyday lives.
And that's why, deep dives like this are so important. The more we understand about AI, its capabilities, its potential impact, the better equipped we'll be to kind of navigate this, this uncharted territory together.
Knowledge is power, as they say.
That's right.
Or maybe in this case, knowledge about AI is power. This has been an incredible deep dive.
It really has.
I feel like I've gone from like AI novice to, well, maybe not expert,
You're getting there.
but at least someone who can like hold their own in a conversation about ChatGPT.
Most definitely.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for like walking us through all of this.
It's been my pleasure, really.
It's been really fascinating.
And remember, this is just the beginning.
Yeah.
The world of AI is constantly evolving, so, stay curious, ask questions, and never stop learning.
Well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with this thought. The future of AI isn't predetermined. It's up to all of us to shape it responsibly and ethically. So what role will you play? Think about it, and we'll see you in the next deep dive.